Okay. So I just lost you again. Okay, there you are. Okay, so if you check the online, my husband is a sex and porn addict. He began watching pornography when he was 8 years old for several hours a day over the course of a few months when visiting his dad, who never spent time with him and his brothers while visiting. He was also molested by his dad's sister when he was younger, like 5 years old. When my husband realized he had a porn and sex addiction, he initially turned to and became addicted to cocaine in and out of inpatient 3 times and 2 suicide attempts. Now
Okay.
sober from substances for 10 and a half months and sex porn for 7 months. Yay. I just found out my daughter, 10 years old, has been watching porn on her phone for a year. And she was touched by a female classmate a few months before starting to watch porn. She admitted she was watching and for how long. She told me she's bisexual. She also has ADHD and anxiety, and that she has takes medication for this. I'm terrified she's at risk for addiction, if not already one. I've set up a counselor, but don't know if I need to send her to a specific type. So that's a lot, Dr. Rob. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's best to take it a little bit at a time and not let your feelings of being freaked out and worried, understandable, affect the pacing or the feelings or the pacing or the steps you're taking. Um, First of all, I hope that there's been some interaction between you and the other family to make sure this doesn't happen again. I think the school probably needs to know if this happened in school, or they even need to know if it didn't, because this is a classmate. So I think there's some work to do there. I don't think any 10-year-old necessarily knows they're bisexual. I am homosexual, and I can tell you that what I know about the research that says that we know we're different, 6, 7, 8. We know somehow that we don't know how, and we certainly don't think of words like bisexual. So clearly, she at 10 years old, and I'm not saying it's a phase, I'm simply saying she cannot know or possibly know what that would mean for her. She's not even, I would imagine, hit puberty yet. So she also has ADD, she has anxiety. So I would say you have enough to be worried about rather than adding to your fears, which is what if she has a sex this? What if she's an addict that? Um, First of all, I'm deeply sorry about your husband's struggle. And I will say this is one of the reasons why we run a treatment center is for people who have combined substances, in part combined substances and sex problems. We are experts at those things together. And you really described exactly what we're trying to have people avoid. And why seeking integrity is here is that people will bounce in and out of drug and alcohol programs, but they can't stay sober because of their sexual history, their sexual past, their sexual behavior. And that is one of our specialties, is both. So I'm sorry that your husband, right, had to bounce back and forth before he got the care that he needed. He's got a lot on his plate too. He's looking at his recovery, he's looking at drugs and alcohol, he's working on sexual recovery. So I gotta say, you got your hands full. And I understand the anxiety about what if, what if, what if, but I would be with what is and just trying to negotiate your family through this incredibly difficult time now and be less concerned about what is to be. And as Tammy, I would say, one day at a time, take it. Hopefully your husband stays sober. Hopefully, I do think that your daughter needs help, but not necessarily because of what you're afraid of in the future. She has been inappropriately touched, and it looks like she has some mental health issues. And by the way, I want to say to all of your parents, it's not unusual. I think one of my best friend's kids was on an antidepressant at 10 or 11. I know some other parents who had their kid on ADD meds. They weren't able to function in school. They didn't do well with their peers. They were missing developmental stages. And it was appropriate and helpful for them to have some support during, they didn't necessarily stay on those medications, but during particular times when they had those vulnerabilities. When you have a father who has an addiction problem, that means his brain doesn't work right. That's what addiction is. And so it makes sense that your daughter might have some things that also don't work right in terms of how her brain functions. So I'm really glad you've taken her to someone to deal with those issues. But I do think a counselor who can help deal with the being touched and all that. And by the way, the school, considering it was a student or a classmate, they may well have a counselor or make a recommendation. They may feel some sense of responsibility. I don't know. But I would definitely want to pursue that. Also, because this young woman, sorry, this young girl who touched your daughter, she may not be the only one. And so can you protect other parents and other children by being more proactive with the school as well as yourself? I really think that piece is important. So there's lots here, but that's what I want to say. There's lots here. And so try to take it a little bit at a time, worry about what's in front of you rather than being fearful about what might be. Tammy, do you have any other feedback?
I do, and I think the third one, it says continuing. My husband feels like it's partially his fault, and I feel like I should have caught it earlier. I would like you to speak to that, but I am glad that you said she's on medicine, and I'm hoping that medication is working for her. It's making sure that she's seeing the right person and a counselor. I mean, it's different areas. When you're talking about how I feel and all of those things, it can be different than the person that's prescribing the medication and things. So making sure that she has somebody who understands 10-year-old girls is, really important too. But I'm with Dr. Rob, like, her sexuality and all that. You guys all have enough on your plate as far as, what's going on, but her being able to process her feelings, all of that with her dad did not happen in a vacuum either. So,
Right.
all of the stress and disconnect that was going on in the family, that is, that creates some unsafety and anxiety. So helping her be able to process through that. We both love you. Dad is working on this. We are working on, I mean, all of those things, can be really helpful. And she's 10. I'm sorry, that's a tween. Those are like there's enough anxiety being a tween, so
Right.
all of those things, getting the support would be helpful. So
The other thing that I didn't hear is what you're doing for yourself. And
yeah.
while I understand completely a mother, I mean, how could you not feel concerned, your husband, all of it? What are you doing so that you can tolerate all this, so you can carry all this on your shoulders? Because you're the one who's bearing a lot of the responsibility of taking care of your family. So you can't afford to fall on your face. So I really hope that, whether it's spending girl time and getting massages and getting your nails done, whether it's really seeing a counselor on a regular basis, I think you need support. And I want to make sure that you are holding up for yourself. Tammy, I didn't see the part where she feels responsible.
No,
Maybe
it
I,
says the third one in the answered. It says continued. My husband feels like it's partially his fault, and I feel like I should have caught it earlier. You see that now?
oh, yeah, this is the same one, the same.
I think it tags onto the first one.
Oh,
Yes.
I see what you're saying. Um, so what happened in school is nobody's fault. I mean, children who are often molested themselves or inappropriately touch themselves will turn to other children and touch them. And I don't know what this was. Was it some kind of child play or was it really, I don't know what exactly happened, but um, two things. Number one, I wrote a book called Pro Dependence, which is about us not taking responsibility for the challenges of our children or our spouses, but more looking at ourselves or people who are doing our absolute best, who love them, and we're not responsible for their challenges. You are responsible for protecting your daughter. As soon as you were able to, you did. I think your husband feeling not responsible about this, but I think it's okay for him to feel badly about not having been able to be present for the family because of his drug use and his porn use. I think in a broader way, when he gets to his amends and his character defects and all the things in the 12 steps, he will have to look at how he let his whole family down. But I think, it's really I think you have to be gentle with yourselves as parents, and it's not his fault or your fault, or, it just is. And what matters is how you deal with it. And I agree with Tammy. A really anxious, overwhelmed, freaked out mom is not going to help her daughter be able to be calm and rational and have you the person she turns to. So you do need to go somewhere and get your support. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're
Hmm.
asking these questions here. And I would say again, worry about what's in front of you. Tell your husband to go work his 12-step program and bring his fears and anxieties to them because you need him to be present for the family. So that's that.
Well,
Want to go to number?
yeah, and I hope he's really working the 12 steps. It's not just like he's just attending meetings, but I also hope he does not decide, oh, it's my fault, and fall into a shame spiral, because that's a
Right.
really big trigger for acting out again, which will do no good. So how do you guys move forward, is really key to all of this. So
I want to add one more thing. I have a
mhm.
lot of men I work with who cheat, who say, I can't believe I did this and I'm so terrible and this is all my fault. And, I think it's more, I don't know what I was going to say. I think that's a lot about them. In other words, your husband could make this about, oh, I screwed up and I have to forgive me and I can't believe I did this. And that's not the same as focusing on you and your daughter. So tell him to get out of his own self-pity, because the last thing you need to have time for is, it's okay, honey, it isn't your fault. And you don't need to take time for that. So he has to deal with his own feelings for himself. And I'm not sure blaming himself is the best solution, but certainly not turning to everyone and saying, oh, I feel so terrible about this. That's definitely not going to be helpful. That's just self-pity. So, which addicts do really well, by the way. We're going to go back to number 2, Tammy.
Yes. If sex addiction isn't about sex, is it always about a trigger, emotional based to feel better, or attractive people can just prompt the acting out for no reason?
I want to say yes. um, so I think both are true. I think that I can, but not, so let me say it this way. I'm a sex addict. If I were going through an extremely difficult emotional time, and for me, especially involving isolation or abandonment, I would want to fix those feelings by acting out sexually. It is my go-to. It is what my brain says, oh, this would be a good thing to do. Often I don't know why. And I think that's part of what we teach our clients.
Oops. He'll be back. He does that where he accidentally is adjusting a headphone and he, hi.
I'm sorry about that.
No, I told
Um,
him I saw you reaching here and I was just going to say, don't, because
you know what I
when you
did.
do that, it turns it off accidentally. But hey, you're
So,
back.
so what I was saying was that, let's get back to the question. Blah, blah, blah. And I've lost all them, of
If
course.
sex addiction isn't about
Right.
sex, is it
So,
always about a trigger, emotionally
so
based
I
to
can
feel
be sitting
better?
in a dark room by myself, and I just got a phone call, or something really bad happened, or it overwhelmed me in some way, or it triggered past issues that I didn't know how to deal with, and I don't know how to deal with them, emotional issues. I can be sitting in that room quietly reading a book, and all of a sudden I want to put the book down and go act out, because the feelings that are coming up for me related to whatever that emotional trigger will always, the way my brain is built. Some people it's alcohol, some people it's gambling, but my brain says, go have sex with someone, you'll feel better. There's no trigger there except the emotional and internal kind of fusing of, I'm having a difficult time and I want to go fix it with sex because that will work temporarily. On the other hand, and I see attractive people all the time. That's the way the world is. And I live in LA. There's a lot of attractive people. They're jogging by, half dressed. I don't necessarily want to go and have sex with them. I don't want to run up. And I think this is one of the things that spouses struggle with sometimes is, oh, well, you can't look at anyone. And if you find anyone attractive, you're about to act out. And I think that is their fear. The reality is that we might find people attractive. Objectifying is not okay, but I will walk by and, I might even say to myself, oh, there's an attractive person. It happens. But I'm not likely to act on it if I have stable sense of myself, if I know what to do, if I have those feelings, and if I act on that. If I'm regularly calling people, if I'm in therapy, if I'm reaching out, if I have a path and a structure toward what to do when these feelings come up, then I'm going to be able to handle what's inside of me whenever I feel like acting out. Part of what our brain says is, go do this thing and you'll feel better. What I've learned in recovery is that's a lie. My brain is saying, you need attention, something's going wrong, you need to reach out to someone, you need to connect. But I interpret that as, I need to go have sex. So I agree with you, yes, that emotional triggers are the driver and the desire to escape from them for the behavior. But I don't think it's true that just because we see an attractive person, or two, we're immediately going to be overwhelmed with the desire to act out and run and go find the other thing. I think that is a fear of a spouse. I don't think it's our reality. However, if I'm under a lot of pressure and I'm walking down the street and all of a sudden I see that person, I might be triggered by them, but I was already in a place where I was kind of worried and anxious and looking for a place to disappear. So that's kind of two different things. I'm not sure if they make sense, but
Well, and it does. And you mentioned like alcoholism isn't because alcohol tastes so good. It is absolutely about escape. But I was also thinking, like, I mean, in our sex addiction 101, I mentioned that work group the facilitator will ask is, is your affair partner or is the person you acted out with, more attractive than your spouse? And it's no, no, no. So it isn't about attractive, but like Dr. Rob said, betrayed partners are always thinking, oh, if I was just more, or I'm afraid that he or she is going to be attracted to. And it's like Dr. Rob said, it's within us. We are looking, we have something that is telling us we're not okay and we can't handle this. And so if we go do this, it'll be easier or better. And, those are lies. So
I want to say it, Tammy, I don't know if you went to dinner with a friend of ours who has 34 years of sobriety this week and sent me a Porsche t-shirt. So you know who that is. And I was having dinner with him last night and a couple of friends, and I had a glass of wine, and he's a recovering alcoholic. He hasn't had a glass of wine in 35 years and 34. And I didn't finish it. And he said to me, how can you not finish that glass of wine? And I'm like, well, if I drink too much, even a full glass, I get a headache. Even 35 years later, it occurs to him. He doesn't go get a bottle of wine. He doesn't go get a drink. But the idea that, oh, that looks good, I might want to do that. That is with us, and if I see an attractive person, I will think to myself, oh, it would be fun too. Other human beings do also, but I think about it differently than they do. And if I'm in a stable place and I'm doing the right work, and then it's just an attractive person who went by and I found them, fascinating. Tammy, what do we got
next one? Husband says he's in recovery. He goes to 2 meetings a week and CSAT once or twice a month. He never talks with me about any of this, has no sponsor, no accountability partners.
You have to slow down because I don't have this one in front of me, so I need you to just a little slower if you don't.
I'm going to type an answer and then I think you'll see it. I'm hoping that this works. So you just muted yourself.
All I have is a thank you, which I appreciate.
Well,
there it is. So okay, I got it. Thank you.
See it now?
Good job.
Husband says he's in recovery. He goes to 2 meetings a week and a CSAT once or twice a month. He never talks with me about any of this. He has no sponsor and no accountability partners. I suspect he is engaging in porn when he says he's going online to his meetings.
So I'm not sure what the question is, but it might be something like, how do I deal with this? Or
to me, this is, he's not in recovery. Like he's probably not even abstinent, but recovery is, I'm really doing the work. I'm engaging. Like Dr. Rob was just talking about, if I'm doing my work, if I'm taking care of myself, then all of these things are not, going to impact me. And or if I'm feeling triggered, I'm going to go, I need to go do something healthy for myself. So at best, he might be abstinent, but I'm going to do what Dr. Rob just said. What do you need to do to take care of you? What are your healthy boundaries? If you haven't already taken the betrayed partner work group, we have another one starting the 2nd of November. Those help you get healthy boundaries. We've got lots of resources for you. You've got no control over him, but yeah, I mean,
right.
like Dr. Rob said, like if I'm taking care of myself, and this is a 24/7 problem, and these issues, come up before age 10 probably. So however old he is, these are decades old, and he's hardly checking off any boxes, to change something. So in 12-step, one of the things we read is half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We have to make a decision whether we're going to pursue recovery or we're going to, kind of dabble in whatever and not really have any benefit of it. And you have no control over that. All you can do is take care of you.
I'm glad you said that, Tammy, because that was my thought. Because if I were to finish this for you, because with a question, I would say, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do? And so I'm going to ask that for you at the end of this. So given what you said, what do I do? And I don't think it's productive for you to say, why aren't you doing more of this? And why aren't you doing more than you need? Because that's not your problem. Your problem is, I feel uncomfortable. I don't, you can say, based on what I'm hearing, I feel very uncomfortable. I don't feel safe. I'd like to hear more about what you're doing. I'd like to hear more, whatever it is. I would feel more comfortable if you were doing more, but you can't make him. What you can talk about is your feelings, your discomfort. You can say, I'd like to move forward and make our relationship better, but this is not going to bring me toward there. But what you can't do is say, well, you need to go 4 meetings a week and you need to do this, and I want you to see that therapist. And because we just get resentful and defensive. And then we say, well, you don't know how much I am doing. And, but you absolutely need to talk about the same reason that brought you to bring this up here is the reason you need to say thing you need to say to him, which is I'm anxious, I'm fearful, I feel left out of the box, all of that stuff, because people can always hear about our feelings. What we think they should do, not so much. Okay.
I'm I'm typing in the chat. There's a We Do podcast with Dr. Rob and Dr. Stan Patkin. It's on in a healthy relationship. This is a healthy relationship. In an unhealthy relationship, it's me, and you're left out. So how do you navigate that? I think it's a fair conversation. You guys listen to it and go, is this what we want? Because if you don't, boy, that's sure information for you. If you really want it and he is like, yeah, I'm fine like this, that's good data for you to have. And how do you take care of you within that structure or out? So
let me be really clear. The podcast
uh-huh.
is called Sex, Love, and
Yeah.
Addiction.
Yeah.
And as
They're
Tammy would
all
say,
on.
we have
Yeah.
almost 1.4 million downloads. It's been helpful for a lot of folks. Dr. Stan
Yeah.
Hacken is one of the people I've interviewed, and I think our interviews with him are some of the best. And there's a new one coming out this week or next week. I'm excited about it. But in that particular podcast, which is with Dr. Hacken on sex, love, and addiction, Tammy is pointing out some of the points that were made there will be really helpful for you. Thanks for bringing that up, Tammy.
Yeah. Okay. How does a betrayed partner accept the injustice of betrayal? I do love my husband, or I did. He was my best friend. We got along well. We enjoy each other's company. We have the same goals for the most part. I just hate his addiction and what he's done and all the people he's been with.
Why don't you start that one, Tammy, if you don't mind? I want to follow you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it sucks. It is unjust, and there's nothing you can do about that part of it. In his brokenness, he did behaviors that were highly problematic and really hurtful to you. But as Dr. Rob said a little bit ago, if we're doing our recovery work, we choose differently. Even if we're triggered, we choose differently. But we have to have the tool. So you know, I mean, this is like, it's sort of like cancer. Like it's unjust. Some people get cancer, some people don't. There's no, oh, I did everything right, so therefore it should all be, lollipops and gumdrops. It's like, this is what we have. And yes, most of the people are, like 95% really great people, and we've got this really broken part of us. And so how do we get help for that piece so that you can, with eyes wide open, be on a path that has honesty? But yeah, you getting help for you, like, honestly, yeah, the trauma of, and all the people he's been with, I hear you. I'm honoring what you're saying, and I'm sorry that enough details, that it's so triggering for you. But getting help, to support you in this that's what you have control over. And I really think it's like, how do you move forward? Asking why and all that, interesting, but how? Here's where you are now. Do you want to move forward? You guys are great friends. We have lots of common goals. You have a lot of positive, and then there's this dark side, but how do we move forward and build trust? And we've got lots of resources. I'm glad you're here. I hope he's listening too. But I mentioned some of the work groups. We have a treatment program. We've got lots of resources to help people be in a healing place.
And free support for you. I have to ask before we go further, Tammy, did you really say lollipops and gumdrops? Because I have to say I haven't heard that from you before.
Oh, I do. I honestly say, yes, lollipop. Well, but it's like people. I heard it in one of my 12-step meetings the other day. Is like, well, they thought like, oh, I'm sober, so now life is going to get magically better, and we all laughed because that's not. No, we just have tools to live life differently, which we didn't have before. So, but yeah, lollipops and gumdrops.
Well, you have grandkids, so let me follow what Tammy said in this situation. What I feel is a lot of ambivalence, which is I want to see. I know he's an addict, but he's also this person. And I love this person, but I don't love that person. And this comes up with the addicts all the time. It's like, I hate that addict, but I love, he's one person. He's not two people. He is a loving person who is really broken, who has hurt you. and there are parts of what you've enjoyed together that were great, and there are parts that weren't. But he isn't an addict, and then he is all one person. And so the person you love is also capable of lying, cheating, keeping secrets. And I think a lot of times you do want to hold on to the good part and not have it be sort of shadowed or poisoned by the bad. And that can really create a split because it's really hard to be deeply angry with someone because you're so connected to the good part, and then you don't really, it's confusing. I wrote down the words ambivalent love, and I think that's something we talk about a lot here, which is very crazy making for a partner, very. Which is, I look at you one moment and I think, gosh, I love you. We've just had so many good times, and you look so cute out there playing with a dog or whatever, and I just love you so much. And then an hour later, we look at the person and say, "You freaking ruined my life, and I hate you. And how could you do these things?" And we go back and forth and back and forth. And I hear a little bit of this in there, which is, I hate the person who did this, but I love you. And it really all is one person. You're swinging back and forth, understandable. You can't just hate his addiction. You can hate the fact that he lies, the fact that he keeps secrets, the fact that he can love you and do something like this. But it's more than just hating his addiction. I mean, he lies to you. That's part of his addiction. He keeps secrets from you. Is that part of his addiction? So I just think that it's the hardest part in the world is keeping one person in mind, and that they have all of this. Because after all, you've been thinking and loving and been with this good one, and you didn't know about the other one. And it's easier to kind of say, well, that's one thing over there. But in every other way, he's great. Trust me. When we have dark pieces, it's all of us, parts of all of us that are dark, not just this little piece of the addiction. So there will be some changes you need to make, which are really tough, about looking at him as he is in ways that can deeply hurt and disappoint you. And no spouse wants to do that. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's really important because it feels like, I mean, I know with addiction, we get very compartmentalized. It's like, we can act out and walk in the door and pretend like nothing happened. And I can see what you're saying, that the compartmentalization of like, well, there's his addiction and then there's the rest of him. So I appreciate the clarification because, I can probably feed into that a bit too. So I will be more cautious about,
well, Tammy,
how
the
I look at
addicts do
that.
it too. They
Hmm.
say, I hate the addict, but the rest of me is great. It's like, no, all of you is an addict, and it
Hmm.
touches every part of your life. And in fact, that addict may be a helpful part of you, that's reminding you you're vulnerable or needful, or it isn't all that's bad and I'm good. It's just you, all of you. So anyway, thank you for that.
Okay, next question. Initial D-Day was December of 18, and a few years after that to realize this was SAPA and not just an affair followed by confusing and selfish behavior. He initially did group work on another website, but was still AO. We
Person's
are,
got a lot of so let me just say, D-Day is disclosure when this person got found
or
out about
discovery.
this.
Yeah, discovery.
SAPA is sex addict and porn addict. Is that
Uh-huh.
right? So
Uh-huh.
it isn't just a fair, they have a porn problem.
Hmm.
And then that they were still AO.
AO is acting out.
Okay, they're still having inappropriate sex
Hmm.
and acting out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have both been doing group work on your website for 1.5 years, me fairly consistently and him sporadically. We have both seen individual therapists, but are out of money to continue to do so. I haven't worked in 2 years, partially due to betrayal trauma. He may
Mhm.
have made significant strides in his recovery, but is still engaging in red circle behavior, probably
Which
weekly,
means the
acting out. Yeah.
um he's still really struggling and doing things that are absolutely not okay.
Yes, and yellow circle so
Right. So
which is
basically, he's still
triggering things.
drinking
He's
only
still,
with sex.
he's still
Hmm.
acting out. We both have accountability apps on his phone for 1.5 years, and we're both exhausted. I don't want to soften my boundaries around accountability while he continues to struggle with transparency and honesty and acting out. What is reasonable for me to expect of him so we can make a timeline to get the accountability off his apps off his phone, but honor my safety? Can
Well, I do want to say,
like,
I,
yeah,
let me
go
just say
ahead.
one thing before I toss it to you, which is I'm so sorry that so many resources have been spent, and you're financially and all that, and you don't see the progress that you're both hoping for. And
Yeah.
that's sort of insult to injury. You have all these issues. In addition, you may have wanted the money for vacation or whatever, and now it's gone into this. And you feel like you're still in the same place when you started, and I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, Tammy.
Well, I was thinking healthy boundaries for you are like this is his problem. And I feel like just from reading this is like, wow, all of the focus and like Dr. Rob just said, even financially has gone, to about this. So what happens if you look at your like it's not about the app, the accountability, which is obviously not even really helping, his having accountability with a peer, his therapist, something like that. It's not you. Having that accountability, but what do you need to do to take care of you? For many partners, it's like I'm going to take care of me. I need, like this is way, I haven't been able to work because of all of this. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine how your health, is being impacted by this. So how do you take care of you regardless of what he's doing or not doing? What is it that would help you have a safety around physical, financial, emotional, spiritual, so that you've got, your people around you, you've got your support. And so if he's, which he is on a daily basis, continuing to struggle, I mean, lots of people continue to live with, an active addict, but they are not rocked every single day by that. They are not exhausted. That's up to him. If he decides, there's lots of resources. 12 step is free. Our drop-in groups are free. Our work groups are low cost. You said he's doing it sporadically. That's on him. So he can continue to act like this. That said, how do you go, I'm gonna take myself over here. I want to be connected to you. Again, that we do could be really helpful, but you're not safe for me. So I'm gonna go work on healing my body, work on, getting grounded, and you do you, and we'll connect in a way that's healthy and safe for me. So I guess my point is, he's doing what he's doing, and he's been doing it for a long time. What do you need to do to take care of you? Hello, Dr. Rob.
I'm wondering if did you want to move on? Did you
Well,
want
did
to
you have
ask?
anything to add to that?
I do. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, hold on. That, there's that. Okay. Um, to me, and I think this is sort of what Tammy talked about, it feels like there's way too much we here. We are both exhausted. Um, I think, and Tammy said this, he needs to do what he needs to do. If he should be doing whatever he's doing to recover. And I think your exhaustion needs to be supported by getting help, by getting support, but I don't know, there's something about Tammy and making how we are both exhausted. It feels like they're both in a process together. And we don't recommend in the beginning that you start working together. We recommend you actually turn away from each other and figure out how to do this on your own and then turn back to each other. So it feels something like, and I wonder, by the way, and I think what you're saying, and I'm guessing, is that his phone app or whatever that you either know about it or reports to you, or, it feels like you're a little too involved in his recovery, and he may be a little too involved in trying to reassure you or make you feel better, or being partially honest, which means dishonest. But there's something about, and I can't put my finger on, sort of what you said, Tammy, that feels like there's not enough separation here. Why I want you to be concerned about yourself. I want him to be concerned about where he is. I want him to be concerned when he sees you moving away. But what right does he have to be concerned about how you're doing when he's the one who's causing you? So this feels like a little enmeshed and a little too, maybe I say, forgiving of him by you, rather than I can't friggin' believe that he's left me in this situation. I hear more that, well, we're tired and it's spent us a lot of money and we don't know how to move forward. And also, I don't want to soften my boundaries. Well, I don't want to be angry at people who hurt me either, but especially when I love them, but I don't let my boundaries go and my safety go because I feel lonely or longing, So it feels to me like each of you need to find more support separately and then turn back to each other. It feels very much like you're way too, well, what are you doing? What am I doing? What are we doing? That doesn't, and by the way, about money, not needed for recovery, not needed. I cannot tell you how many, with Tammy can, how many alcoholics got sober without ever going to a therapist, without ever going to, a group therapy. They followed a program of recovery that has worked for other people. And maybe it's important you don't spend another penny. Maybe your money was misspent because he or you relied on the therapy as being the solution. So I don't know. I think there's work to be done here, but it's separate, not together.
Yeah, and I'm going to go
So
back to half measures avail us nothing. He's doing this sporadically, which feels passive aggressive to me, where he's, oh, I'll do a little bit of this, and but he's still acting out every single day. That's crazy making for partners. Like, so when Dr. Rob says, do it on your own, he means separately, but you each have support. Like, we've got support groups for each of you separately, but not you managing his recovery or his lack of recovery.
and I got to add to this because I was just reading a certain part of it again, and I'm going to quote you. He has made significant strides in his recovery, but he's still engaging red circle. Basically, you're saying he's made significant strides, but this is like saying, oh, the alcoholic in my life has made significant strides. Of course, they're still drinking 3 days a week, and the yellow part, and they're hanging out with their friends at bars. But I know they're really, what do you consider a stride for? Do you think insight? Oh, I know myself better, or I know what my mother did when I was 5. I mean, him doing better, significant strides in recovery means he has months where he's not engaged in red circle behavior. He is not putting himself in any yellow circle situation. So rather than looking at how well he's doing, I would look at how frustrated and disappointed I am that it's been all this time and all this money and he's still acting out. What do you admire about this? What do you appreciate about this? What do you value about this? Because I'd be effing pissed that he isn't getting more time together and getting his shit together. So I wouldn't be sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm really impressed with the strides he's making." I would be more thinking to myself, if you continue to do this and not get more help for yourself, I don't know how I can. I don't know if we're even going to talk to each other. So, last question for today, because
My
it's a
essay
holiday.
husband is maybe realizing potential sexual abuse as a child that was maybe repressed. How does this affect the addiction recovery? As a partner, I feel sad for the child and still feel a barrier.
Well, there's a lot of things to say here. I will say this though, that recovery is a staged process. So he needs to be sober and not acting out and having the support he needs before he investigates and works on child abuse. It's not that may not be coming up for him. And I appreciate that him kind of calming himself down and realizing that happened, maybe writing about it. But I don't think that working on it will help him stay sober and be, what it's going to do is it's going to bring up all kinds of stuff and he's going to end up acting out. So what I'm saying, the first thing is it's very important that he has solid sobriety, that he really is getting support so that as these things come up, and they may, that he is stable enough to not act out over them. Because then he's back in the shame of, I can't believe I'm acting out and I hate myself. And so it doesn't help. How does this affect it? So I've just answered how it affects it, which is makes us more vulnerable. And so, for example, if he started to think of this and he goes to 2 meetings a week, maybe he should go to 3. What can he do to be more supported so that as this comes up, he doesn't get overwhelmed? Um, and yeah, as a partner, I feel sad for what happened to him. I mean, we can have more than one feeling at a time. We can feel furious for what has happened to us and yet feel really sad for what happened to him. But he is still responsible for his adult behavior. I'm sorry that happened. I was abused when I was a child. It does not excuse my lying, cheating, and infidelity in my marriage. It does not excuse it. It's sad, but it is not. I am not It's not like I can throw responsibility in the winds and you can just feel badly for me because these things happened. You get to feel as an adult how your life has been affected by me, and I get to feel focused on how I've hurt, how I've let you down, how I've hurt others. And yes, this is the source of it. And by the way, Tammy's talking about insight alone does not avail us. I'd say this to clients all the time. Clients want to know why. Why is this happening? Why I have this problem? Sometimes they know why. Well, because mom did this and dad did this, and then this happened when I was in school. But as I say this all the time, I could show you a reel of every single thing that ever happened to your life if we had time. Um, that would stop your acting out. So if you or anyone thinks that somehow exploring this or understanding this or working through this is going to stop the acting out, that's not how it goes. They are separate issues. Yes, this may have caused it and led to it, but first, as an adult, you need to clean that part up of what you're doing and how are you doing it. And then there's room to look back. And even if you do look back, it doesn't cure anything. I think the most important part about looking back is I think it moves us from I'm an awful person to I'm a really broken person. It moves us from I don't give a shit and I'm malicious to I am really broken into pieces. And because self-hatred, I'm a bad person, is not helpful, and I can't help bad people. But really terrible things happen to me and I'm really broken by that. I can help those people, but I don't excuse their active hurting of other people and themselves and their lives because of what happened. If that makes any sense.
It does. It
So
makes, and
I
that's
hope
a
you
great
guys,
way to end, because that was,
yeah, I hope you
you know,
guys are
the
at
why is
peace that we're ending.
interesting, but not the,
Well, the why is helpful because I don't have to hate myself. Of
yeah,
course, I know
but
why.
people are going, why? And I hear all the time, I know why, and I'm acting out, and I keep acting out, and a decade later, they're still acting out. So I appreciate that you talked about that.
But there is a question asked, which is how
Hmm.
have I managed to keep all this going? How can I make a difference in my life? How can I change things? How can I keep my commitments? The how is much more important in the beginning than the why. The why is sort of more about me. And trust me, as acting out, I had enough about me. So anyway, thank you for letting us go. You
Thanks,
know, we want to be
everyone.
here for you during the holidays, but we also need to take care of ourselves. So see you
Bye,
later.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Tim.